What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you guys are all doing great. Obviously, lots of good stuff happening. Lots of crazy stuff happening all over the planet. I know that. That's not so good. Just think that we're in a very, very, very strange time. But I want to welcome you to the Bill Walsh Live Show. We got some great stuff for you tonight. All kinds of incredible guests. Some great things to talk about. But first and foremost, I just want to say be safe. Wherever you're at, be safe. I know that it's hard to see what's happening in America right now, and there's no doubt as entrepreneurs, as individuals, as American citizens, it's a little shocking to see all this stuff going on, but it's a time for a great awakening in many ways, and there's no doubt that they'll need to really look at the systems and processes and programs that are being used throughout our justice system and take note of it. And I just I don't have a lot of words for that, but I have a lot of words about what you're doing right now and what you're working on and where the potential is at. So my best advice is say a prayer and be grateful and really think about all the families, and certainly the families that have lost people during this craziness. And don't forget COVID. I think we're forgetting all about the pandemic and watching all the riots because it makes better news, and it's sad that it makes better news. But I think all of us are responsible to take care of our own actions, take care of your own personal economy. And I don't think it's going to get easier. I think it's going to get tougher. So don't ask for less challenge. Let's ask for more wisdom. And the wisdom and the leadership needs to come from the top down. So with all that being said, I will tell you that for the entrepreneurs that are on today, and for those that are looking for a little hope and a little faith, this too shall pass. So you got to dig in and focus on what you know and what you can do and what you can change and not what you can't change. And let's look to our leaders to hopefully make even better decisions to create better outcomes. And one of the things we talk a lot about is that when you ask better questions, you'll always get better answers. And so I want to thank everyone for plugging in tonight. If you're, hello, Edna, thanks for being on. If you're on one of the social media streams, please go start a watch party. You do not want to miss anybody that these guests I have tonight. And I sometimes call guests out of the audience. So if I see you on there, sometimes I'll just say, hey, just jump on and be a part of the stream tonight. This live show, there's no logins for it. You don't got to opt in for anything. There's opt-ins on the right of the screen. You'll see that you can get access to some cool stuff that we have, whether it's a copy of my book or access to our club, or if you want to get some coaching or see some of the other events we got going on, just get plugged in. It's all for you tonight. But I will tell you that today needs to be your day. You need to make today your day. You need to think a little deeper about where you're at, what you're working on, and where you're going. So where you're at, what you're working on, and where you're going. You always hear that story about success is kind of like location, location, location. Well, location is where have you been, where are you at, and where you're going. Hello, Sandoval. Good to have you on tonight. So where have you been, where are you at, and where you're going needs to be a big part of your story. When you start to think about real estate, the success in real estate's always location, location, location. Well, so is success in your life. Success in your life says where have you been, where are you at, and where you're going. And they always talk about the day you're born and the day you died, but the most important part of that tombstone is the dash. It's that little dash in the center. And tonight I just want you to understand that location, location, location is everything. So where have you been, where are you at, and where you're going. And once you realize where you've been and where you're at, you need to focus on where you're going. You need to realize that to take ownership today of whatever has happened has happened. You can't change it. That everything in your life that's happened so far has prepared you for what's next. So I would challenge you tonight to really begin to think about not just so much where the economy's at, because it is what it is, but where are you at, and what does your personal economy look like? And what are you going to do differently tonight than you've done in the rest of your life to make tomorrow one of your best days ever? And that starts with, what is your plan? Who are you going to spend time with? What systems do you have in place? Many of you know that just this week we launched a brand new product, a new digital system for all small businesses called Mobex Pro. And it is probably one of the hottest systems you're ever going to find for sales and marketing, email, distribution, follow-up, follow-through, webinars, telesummits, CRMs, all those things, all in one program. So you've got to understand that today, whatever it is you're working on, how do we get better? How do we get better, a little bit better every day? What needs to happen to make the things you're working on work even better? And I know that it's not always easy when you can't see a clear outcome. You know, when you don't have the exact answers. Well, that's the life of the entrepreneur. You don't always have the exact answers. And you're seeing more of that now as there's so much disturbance, there's so much chaos in some ways in some of our major cities. But this wake-up call has been a long time coming, you know, and I know there's a combination of individuals out there that their voice is important. There's a combination of individuals that probably are just there to create some of the chaos. But we need to look deeper than that. We need to look beyond that. We need to ask better questions of ourselves, and hopefully those same questions will elevate to our leaders and then put in through systems where there's clear paths, clear goals to get to better outcomes. But I would challenge the same on your personal economy. Your personal economy has to look at where have you been, where are you at, and where are you going, and who are you going to go there with. So take a moment right now and just write down, where do you see your business in 3 to 5 years? Who's required to make that possible? Who is required to make that possible so those big goals and dreams you have become a reality? Hey, Don, how are you? Good to have you on from Canada. Welcome, Canada. And I know, once again, it's not easy. I know, once again, that, man, for the last 75 days has been challenge after challenge after challenge. But I need you to look beyond that, because if you stay in the woods, you'll live in the woods. You need to be able to get above the trees, get above all the noise, get to some clear sky so you can begin to see all your potential, all your God-given potential, all of your gifts that are being brought to the marketplace. I know that you have a bigger calling, and the bigger calling as an entrepreneur, business owner, needs to start with, what is your greatest gift? What is your greatest skill set? Now, how do we bring that to the marketplace? How do we understand at a deeper level, why are we here and what inspires you to do what you do? Ask yourself that question tonight. What truly inspires you? I'll have a special guest on tonight that I've known for 25 years, and a little more than 25 years. And he's been through the ups and downs, you know, but he's also built 45 plus winning companies. He's been in the 9-figure game of selling businesses, and he really does understand what it takes to play at the next level. And he's probably forgotten more about success than most people know. And I've invited another friend on tonight that she is a master chief negotiator. And I'm going to bring her on first because I think that the quality of your communication will dictate the quality of your life. So please write that one down. The quality of your communication will dictate the quality of your life. And I know that there are so many things you could be doing right now. And you know what? I'm going to keep broadcasting every week and bringing some good news, because I think your heart and soul is being fed so much bad news every day. And we need more good news to offset some of that. But the good news needs to start with you. The good needs to start with you being online and broadcasting and getting people to tap into new stuff. Because if not, you're going to fall prey to the woods. You're going to fall prey to all the negative news, and you're going to allow the economy to become your economy. And that's not you can't let that happen. You have to learn to step above the noise, and you'll see a whole different vantage point of what's possible. So I'd like to, at this point, bring on a special friend and a guest, and she's a rock star, someone excited to do a lot of business with over the next 5, 10, 20 years. She's speaking on national stages pretty soon. She's just a dynamic lady. So let me see if I got Christine. I'm gonna try to add her to the stream here. Christine, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm not sure I can hear. There we go. Now I can probably hear you. Go ahead. We try to add you back to the stream. Can we hear you there?
I don't know.
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
I can hear you just fine. You're super clear. So I like the new hair colors too.
Thank you. I change them all the time.
You kind of fade in and out there. You're kind of fading in and out. So if you just stay a little closer to the computer, not that close, but that's good.
Yep.
Because you're kind of going in and out. So maybe share with everybody a bit of your story. Everyone, this is Christine McKay. You see her name on there. But tell us a bit of your story and tell us why communication right now is more important than ever.
So I have an unusual background in that I was an unwed teen mom. I was homeless for a period of time. I had 3 kids by the time I was 22, was on and off welfare for over 8 years, and decided I wanted a different life for myself. So I went to community college and got a 4.0 and got a great scholarship into an engineering institution, and then was able to take a position working for Bell Atlantic International, which is now Verizon. And I started doing international mergers and acquisitions work in Eastern and Western Europe and Southeast Asia. And after that, I earned my MBA from Harvard University, which is a long way from my 1972 Chrysler Newport. And probably the most amazing part of my experience has been when my daughters walked across the stage with me at Harvard Business School before I got my career, or got my degree rather. And that was just it's just amazing. And I think over the course of my career, my almost 28 years working in negotiation in various different capacities, both on the customer side as well as on the procurement side, as well as mergers and acquisitions. And certainly in times like we're in today, like when we had the dot-com bubble burst, as well as the Great Recession in 07, 08, your ability to communicate drives your ability to be successful. And if you're not able to adequately and effectively and empathetically ask for what you need and want, and be able to listen with intent to what others need and want out of your relationships with them in business, then you will not be successful in the long term.
I think it's more present now than ever, but what are a few tips that you would give the entrepreneur mindset that says right now they're in a cloud, or they're in a deep fog. They're not sure which way is up. They have not been able to sit with people and do meetings. They've changed the entire landscape of producing your story, your message. And what are some things you would give to entrepreneurs or small business owners right now to be more effective in their communication with their clients and with potential clients?
So I have on my website, bednegotiation.com, you can actually take a quiz to learn what your default negotiation style is. And I think that it's really important that we understand how we communicate and how others perceive our communication. So if you think about there's an old-fashioned style of doing business, doing it on a handshake, structured, kind of very relationship-oriented, like tradition, and that's a very specific type of personality and a way of doing business. And you contrast that with people who want more, text messages. They don't like meetings. They're okay doing everything virtually, and you get a different dichotomy going on. And if you're trying to communicate to one or the other in your style, and you're trying to communicate to the other person, and they have the other style, then that's not going to be a very effective way of approaching things. And when it comes to negotiation, if you're somebody who walks into a negotiation and it's all about winning at all cost, and you need to say renegotiate, like maybe you're a small business owner and you have a retail store and you need to renegotiate with your landlord, but you are just like the super aggressive. A negotiation is all about winning. It's all about conquering your opponent and going into battle. Your ability to get a renegotiated deal is going to be really difficult because you haven't built enough goodwill. And so knowing that style, knowing if you're somebody who is going to is more focused on relationship and can tend to be taken advantage of, or feel that they're taken advantage of because they focus on building the relationship, and they'll do deals that don't make sense just because they're afraid that if they don't, that it's going to hurt the relationship. That doesn't help either, because then that person's not going to ask, not going to position themselves for long-term success, and they're going to kind of get dragged along, and that's going to create resentment and cause problems and issues in their relationships. And so being able to figure figure out ways of, managing both sides of an equation and being very self-aware. That's one of the biggest things that I find, at least as a negotiator in my world, that you have to be very aware of who you are and how you present yourself. And you also have to really understand how to listen and listen with intent, because if you're not doing that, then you're going to miss key clues in terms of what you need to do to be successful in your communication. You also have to really understand, Bill, you'll like this one. You have to know your numbers when it comes, and you have to know your business inside and out when it comes to communicating to others and looking to get things that you need and want. Because if you can't articulate what your objectives are, what your goals are, and you're not going to be able to bring somebody else along for the ride with you.
You know what? You're always spot on. I'm always honored to have you on anything that we do broadcast-wise, and excited to have you on some national stages. And, of course, see a lot of you this week during speaker camp. But I thought it'd be great, too. Just give out your website again, how people get some more information, how they can get connected with you, maybe take the free quiz.
Sure. It's www.vennegotiation.com. And
So that's on the screen. Is that the right link right there?
That is correct.
I love it. See?
That is correct.
Any other last words of wisdom you want to share?
No, I have a book coming out this month in June.
Oh, good. What's that called?
Yeah, it's A Sign Here, Negotiation Strategies for the Real World. So look forward to that. That'll be on my website too. So awesome.
See, no accidents. Christine, you're the best.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being on, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks.
All right. You rock. Thank you.
Bye.
So the idea of this show, just so you know, is just uninterrupted. Let's just have some fun, and let's share some goodness and talk about some great things that are happening, and be open to the conversations. The next conversation is a friend of mine that, like I said, already wildly successful, pretty much done more in his life than most people will ever dream about doing, and he's helped a lot of people. He's literally shared his message on probably every continent on the planet, and has spoken in front of millions of people over the course of his life on helping them build businesses and create more success and have more fun and live inspired lives. So you're in for a treat tonight. And I will tell you this, that he's a forever student. He never stops learning. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time, is that they never stop learning. And if you're listening tonight, please make sure, get a copy of my book. Text the word obvious to 26786. Get the book right now. Share the book on your social media. Get some people to read The Obvious. I think common sense is no longer common sense. Common sense is not so common, and the obvious is not so obvious. And so I think it's a good read for us right now during these challenging times to understand there's laws for success. There are principles that guide the most successful on what it takes to win, and not win once in a while, win all the time. When other people bitch, once again, you praise. When they party, you plan. And you have success, you say nothing. Let the success do all the speaking. But let me take our live show tonight up to Canada. Let me try to bring on my good friend, Mr. Errol Abramson. See if the microphone's working. Errol, how are you?
Good to see you.
I'm blessed, man. How are you doing?
The only people that could interrupt my Sunday night to come and do something. I'm so proud to be on your show. And I just want to praise you for all the work that you've done for small business in the world.
Thank you so much.
You've really set a great foundation, and it's been wonderful to have the opportunity to join you and share messages that we believe in together.
Well, the feeling is mutual, my friend, and it's great that we reconnected. Got to do a little deep sea fishing out of Mexico last year and really create some brain trust and begin to work on some incredible programs to help young entrepreneurs, to help small business owners. I know that you do some selective coaching now. We'll talk about that later. You get to cherry pick a few people to work with, but maybe just share with everyone. Take a few minutes and share a bit of the life, the adventure of Errol Abramson, and how you got to where you're at today. And I'll just let you kind of go on a roll here for a few minutes, and I'll just kind of jump back in. So
thanks very much, Bill, for this opportunity. First of all,
take the mic.
at any level that you're going to be in is seek it out. Seek out education. There are people that will teach you. There are books that will teach you. There are videos. There are all kinds of information. It's never been easier to generate information than now. It is the age of information. I was talking to a friend the other day about some of my businesses, Bill, and if I could move them forward and have the tools that we have today, how big those companies could have been compared to how big they were then. And I built some pretty big companies. But you know, the interesting thing is each time something dramatic happens in our lives, and this has been dramatic. Now, I got to tell you something. It hasn't been the biggest crisis we've faced, but it's been the most educational crisis we've faced because of the communication that there is. And the media just loves to be negative. And here's the challenge. How do you move ahead of this wave? How do you take what has happened here and take advantage of it? And the thing is, since February, I have been busier, Bill, than I've been in the last few years. I've actually dove back into some of my companies. There were financial opportunities that I took, and I had old clients come back to me in crisis. And it's very, very interesting how we pivoted and how we changed their landscape to generate against what's happening today. In other words, I don't want to sound like a profiteer, but there's opportunity in everything. And even during this pandemic, there is opportunity. And there's opportunity to grow, to learn, to understand, to restructure and build. And again, it's about lifestyle. And anytime that you're challenged, you either lay down and let it roll you over, or you stand up and educate yourself and make a change. And I took some businesses, three of my clients came back to me, and one of them was on the verge of bankruptcy. He didn't have any more credit. He'd run out of his credit. He'd gone through what the government would give him. And this was a very interesting, and I'd like to share the story just to see the pivot. It was two things. We generated 2 new profit centers for him where he was totally no volume coming in and nothing but debt. And he had actually run out of cash. And nobody wanted to lend him any more cash. He was in the cosmetic business, the high-end cosmetic business, where the jars cost $5. So he was selling $200 cosmetics. And I said, you know what the world needs right now that you could provide? And he said, what? I said, sanitizer, hand sanitizer. You have a plant. We can get you the raw materials. You start off small to capitalize yourself, and you sell it for cash because everybody's out of it and wanted it. Since March, in that pivot, he's done $15 million in cash, Bill. Every Monday, he's got product to ship, and if your order is in there and paid for in cash, he'll ship to you. If it's not, he sells it to someone else. And so now he's rolling in cash. The second pivot was those $200 jars of cosmetics. Those people that go to these high-end department stores like Neiman Marcus to buy these cosmetics aren't going there. They're not shopping there right now. So how do you get a hold of them? So I suggested he go into business with some of his vendors, and he shipped the product to the people. They have the names of the customers. And he's taken his inventory that was sitting dormy and he's reduced it by 60%. And as of last month, he started manufacturing again. So he created two big pivots. And I have other stories too. But the thing is, if your goals and desires are stronger than the adversity that you will face, and we all certainly are facing adversity, then you'll be successful. But you need something to pull you through. Another client I was talking about, they set all these goals. They had these wonderful goals. And I said, those are great goals. Those are wonderful, wonderful benchmarks that we're working on for them. And then I worked with them a little while and I asked them a simple question. Do you believe that you can achieve those goals? And there was a hesitation. One of the things that I have done in business is my desire for success was so strong that I wouldn't accept failure. I always felt that there was another form of creativity that I could use to generate some success. So as long as I didn't quit, I would find a way to succeed. And that's how I became 47-0 in businesses, Bill. And just like anything else, through my career, I had a birthday yesterday. I'm 70, and I don't feel it. It's amazing. I feel young. Why? You want to know why? I'm doing what I want to do. I'm teaching. And I have had an amazing career. If God chose to take me today, I've had a phenomenal life. I've met presidents. I've met Fortune 50 CEOs. I've traveled the world, and I've built some wonderful businesses, and I have a pocketbook that can afford me anything I want to buy now. Nice career, but you know what I enjoy the most? Watching a small business succeed. Watching a person hit their goals and generating a lifestyle. And when I wake up in the morning and I do my consulting, that's what I get to do. And I don't do Fortune 100 companies anymore. I do small business. Because I know small business and entrepreneurialism are the key to our future. Let me tell you something. If you take a job, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you have a salary or whatever you earn from your job, that dictates the lifestyle that you can live. But if you're an entrepreneur, you can choose the lifestyle that you want to live. And you can develop a plan to afford you to live that lifestyle. And that's what I believe. It's not about making money. It's not about winning. It's not about achieving. It's about lifestyle. And it's about enjoying it. And that's something that you're willing to work for. You know, some of the big questions in life: who am I? Where am I going? And who's going with me?
So, Errol, one of the big questions I got, and happy birthday, brother.
Thank you very much.
What a perfect night to have you on the stream.
70 years.
It's awesome. You get a lot of people that are wishing you happy birthdays all over the place, so that's kind of cool too.
70 years on the planet, and I think about the days that we went out, hit the golf ball, shot basketball hoops.
We've had a lot of fun in a lot of countries.
You know, you're really a dear friend, and I just want you to know that.
Well, you know, I want to thank you for all the wisdom you've shared with me over the years, and it's made a difference in my life. And, you know, the ripple effect of that is that I've been able to serve millions of entrepreneurs and been able to get in front of more than 100,000 entrepreneurs a year, and now with our digital stuff, even more. But
you know what you say, Bill, and what's interesting is my philosophy is you can change the world one entrepreneur at a time.
That's right.
And whatever influence I had with you is affecting millions of people.
That's right. That goes back to what Mother Teresa said. Mother Teresa talked about maybe you can't change the world, but you can change one person at a time. If you change one person at a time, you just might change the world. And I think that's really been a mantra for you, that you've always taken the time. I still remember sitting at a restaurant in Cleveland, and you ordered everything on the menu because you said, if you're going to go out, you might as well go out and try everything. And I think the whole table was kind of shocked, because they're like, there's only 10 or 15 of us, and they started bringing out food after food after food. And, and I think that's what life is, right? Life needs to be displayed as a buffet where you're going to find out what your calling is. But if you try nothing, you'll know nothing. If you try nothing, you'll always look.
That's a great quote, Bill. Life is a buffet.
But it's either you get in the game and play, or you watch and you wonder what happens. So I thought I'd get down to some really tough stuff. Is that why do you believe it is that most entrepreneurs don't make it? And this is a message that people need to hear.
There's really two reasons, and they're on both sides of the mental attitude. Of course, people talk about mindset and mental and attitude has a lot to do with it. And then there just is learning the physical foundation. I've seen a lot of people, and I've had a lot of people come to me, and when I do an analysis of their business, and I can cut through a business like a hot knife through butter. I mean, I can know more about your business from 1 hour sitting with you than you know for the last 5 years of running it. But the end of the day is, a lot of times people do not have the structure. They still have a foundation that they've built, or they have they get a good idea, they get started, and all of a sudden they're in business, but their business isn't running properly. And it needs fundamentals. And just like anything else, Bill, when you're building a business, like building a home, you need a foundation. And that's where your Rainmaker program, I think, is so strategic to the world. That small business, look at the statistics, first of all. 70% of all employees in the world are employed by small business. That makes small business very important to the world economy. But 90% of small businesses leave the planet in 3 years, fail. And of that, 50% of them fail at 18 months. And why? And the reason is business structure. When they go to expand and they say, okay, I'm going to go from 1 store to 2, or I'm going to scale. And they start scaling, and they bring on people, and they bring on the wrong people. And they don't know how to bring on the right people. They don't know what training is. They don't know how to develop staff or develop a department and get results. I had a business, I wanted 2 things in 155 stores done the same way by all the employees. And it took me 5 years to implement it. 5 years to implement it. And repetition. And I think the delusion of grandeur, when people hit a pinnacle point, Bill, and they think they're successful, and they're really not. Their bottom line isn't really showing what they want to be. And it requires the analytics, and it requires things. I've developed my template that I use, and you've got different things that you use. And I've never seen anything better than Rainmaker to be able to show people how to do things. And 3 simple things that I use are time, because that's our most valuable asset. and we all have the same amount of time. Richard Branson and Bill Walsh have the same amount of time in a day. So they can accomplish the same things. The second thing that I believe in is nothing begins until something is sold. What your last guest talked about, communication. If you have a business, you're going to have to communicate. The best promoter for your business should be you. And I was talking about with one of my clients about how as we moved forward and he starts seeing things, his vision got better. And I talked to him about a 5-year game plan, and he had no clue how to think out 5 years. And he could barely think out the rest of the month. And now, because of the achievement and because of setting the structure, he's able to see a game plan where he can build his business to the lifestyle that he wants to achieve. Is that helpful, Bill?
That's exactly what I'm looking for. And I guess the other question I would have is that when you face difficult times, as everybody will, right? Where do you pull from to really have the gumption, the inner fortitude to break through the challenge? How do you break through the adversity? Because, we always hear about these stories, but we don't always hear the backdrop that makes the story possible. It'd be great if you could share a little bit about how do you stay strong during the adversity? How do you break through it? And how do you come out the other side even better than you were before you faced the adversity?
I go back to my Bible, Think and Grow Rich, and I reread the chapters on desire and faith. And then I start looking for ideas and creativity. The first thing that I want that I decide on is I'm not going to be defeated. And most of us are willing to throw the towel in pretty quickly. And you don't have to. You don't have to. The number 3 thing in business is creativity. And creativity is nothing more than options. And so you can develop that. You can actually develop the ability to be able to create options by going to situations that you've had in a mastermind, which you create, and you run masterminds all over the country, Bill, and talk about in a mastermind, I have this challenge. Could I get some ideas? And get ideas. You can Google, you can research. But the outcome is belief. And I've never, ever, ever, because I've been depressed, I've been beaten, I've been on my knees, but I never quit. And I always believed that I would achieve. And I always believed that I would move forward. And maybe that has to do with faith. And maybe that has to do with desire. Because we are all geniuses. And we all have inalienable rights. And we all should be successful and living the lifestyle that we desire. And all we have to do is seek it. So, Bill, if I would start anywhere, I would start with desire, and I would start with faith.
Well, there's that old saying that with faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. Tonight we're on Twitch. I want to thank some of our Twitch listeners tonight that I didn't even really know what Twitch was not long ago. And, we went completely digital. We went from doing 40 live events a month to 0, and from 0 digital events to almost 30 digital events per month. We've created a library now in less than 75 days with just over 200 hours of content that people can now plug into and listen to, most of it for free. if you're on here tonight,
you made the pivot very quickly, but
11 days. 11 days we did it.
That's always been you.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
you
brother.
never accepted failure either.
No.
You know, maybe
Lord knows I've been broke and wealthy, but broke sucks.
well, you know,
but we've been there.
You know what they say. I've been rich and I've been poor, and I like rich better. And you know, there's no value in poverty.
No, you know, the saying is that money won't buy you happiness, but it sure makes a good down payment.
Well, it sure makes you comfortable while you're waiting.
Right. Gives you a little better bargaining position.
You know, Bill, the one thing I guess is, if I always start a lot of my lectures with a question. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you get there?
That's a great question tonight. You know, I know you've done so many presentations over your life. What are some tips you would give for some speakers?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, the first thing I would do is I would buy Bill Walsh's speaking course, because he is probably one of the best stage presences there is. But one thing that I do, and the one thing that I know I'm not good at, is spontaneity. Now, Bill might argue with me, but he is phenomenal at spontaneity. I prepare myself. I want to know who I'm going to be talking to, and I want to make impact. And so I want to have a start or an opening that I get their attention, and I want you listening to me. I want a body that is interesting, and I want to deliver something that you can utilize right away. And then I want to close with a message. And my body content here is that this is opportunity time. It's not crisis time. It's opportunity time. If you have a job and you're getting beaten up, and believe me, I know this. Believe me, I understand, because I've had people on that want to be entrepreneurs, and I call that transition. And I never want a person to leave their job until their business, their side business, is doing as well as their job. But you know what? I always wanted everybody to have a side business. Why? Here we have it, pandemic. Okay, so the pandemic really has played into where the market was going anyways. Bill, the market was going digital. And all the pandemic did is force us there faster, did it not? Is that not exactly what's happened to us? We're in a crisis. We're sitting at home, but we can still communicate with the world right from our home. I consult to 22 countries right from my home. Now, I only take 5 clients, and I want to tell you something, Bill, and maybe you'll help me find one. I'm looking for one interesting client. I've got 4, and you know I take 5. And I want one interesting client that's challenging, that wants to build and develop their business. I charge $5,000 a month, and I have access to me 24/7. That's why I only take 5. And I don't have anybody that I've worked with that have not improved. And I believe that you find out about whoever you're working with by the testimonials. Like you said, Bill, you don't have to brag about your work. Other people will do it for you. You don't have to brag about Rainmaker. Other people will do it for you. You don't have to brag about Power Team and Bill Walsh, because other people are doing it for you. And the people that you've touched that are successful now, So the truth of it is, ladies and gentlemen, we're being pushed to where we're going to go anyways. Find your niche. Find how you could fit in. And you know, Bill, I've been talking a lot to a lot of people about affiliate selling. And isn't this funny that a year ago, you and I sat down in Mexico and I told you I wanted to build a gigantic affiliate team to sell Rainmaker around the world. Did we not? And here it is. It's moving towards where we're going to go. Is that not helpful, Bill?
It's really crazy. It's really crazy because the market has caught up with this stuff. And, you know, I think that everybody thinks it's easy until they got to go do it. Everyone talks about how simple it is to build a business until they got to go build one. You know, I love the fact that, you know, when you're out there and you're going to have failure. I mean, part of business is failing. I can tell you that if you study the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, most of them have had some failures.
I call it temporary defeat, just so you know.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Temporary defeat's a good way to look at it. But it's also important to know that you've got to surround yourself with people that challenge you.
You bet.
You got to surround yourself with people that, you know, make you even better.
You bet.
You know, and you can, you know, I see a comment, build 10 businesses. Well, you can build 10 businesses, but if they all fail, build one that's great and then go build some more. You know, I don't think it's so easy to build.
You know, I expanded a business. One of my first businesses, Bill, I expanded, and I had brick and mortar in those days, right? And I had a brick and mortar store that was doing phenomenal. Opened a second store, and my bottom line stayed the same. But I had 2 stores now. So guess what? The second store was eating my profits up. Build one business.
Right.
Build one business and generate additional profit centers. Become a person that, if you're going to build a good business, what do you need? You need people. Become a people person. Understand training. Understand that people don't learn just from one. You know, you give the person a title, or you got 10 great sales guys and you take your top sales guy and you make him your sales manager and he dies.
Yeah.
Because he's not management quality, but he's a great sales guy. And the business owner has to know how to identify that. Getting round pegs in round holes, square pegs in square holes, and simple training procedures. My tell, show, try, do, right? And I've used that simple stuff for now 50 years.
I guess the big thing too, Errol, is that, you know, when you're trying to pick partners, what do you look for in partners that you're going to select to be a part of the business with?
Boy, you know, it's very difficult because I've been more disappointed with partners that I've picked, Bill, than anything in my business career. If I was going to say the biggest disappointment, it would be in partners. And the reason is, a lot of times I look at a partner and I look at what I want them to be instead of what they really are. And a partnership needs to have some really basic elements. Respect is one of them. And somebody's ability to do one thing and your ability to do another. And being able to trust and work with each other. Partnerships are difficult. Partnerships are as difficult as relationships, Bill.
Yeah.
We're both winners on that one.
Hey, listen, I've had plenty of failures. I think everybody does. Anybody that's built a business, a real business, they've had failures, and that's part of it. But I also think that, you know, that during those challenges, you got to figure out, you know, how do you do things better? How do you get smarter? How do you get more efficient? And I think technology has really made it easier for a lot of businesses to hyper growth You've seen companies in 10 years that have done more in 5 or 10 years than companies have done in 100 years.
You know, Bill, that's one of the things that I talk about mirroring. And mirroring has been very important for me. And I took some of the best companies in whatever genre I was in. I would look for the best companies in that area and I would study them. And I would see what I could learn from them and apply it to my business. And I think that's a great education. It's so easy now to get information. If you want to study a company today, it's easier than 50 years ago when I was studying a company. I actually had my store managers leave their stores on Tuesday and go walk through other stores. And that was their job. I paid them to walk through other stores and take a look. You know, what was the cleanliness like? What was the way that they were greeting their customers like? What was their shelves like? What was their displays like? What was their signage like? And we would bring that back to our stores and we would immediately apply it. So the mirroring, I think, is a great way to go. And why not study the top guys?
I think that's the thing that people don't do is they just want to keep thinking they've got all the answers. So it's always funny that these guys that are so full of advice and full of things, they've never built anything. Does that make sense? They've never built a damn thing, but they sure do.
Yeah, you know, and I've met so many of those people. This and that, do this, do that, do this, do that. And I said, yeah, look, all I want to do is take a look at what you've done. Well, I haven't done anything yet, but when I do, you better step aside, pal, because it's going to be something. Yeah, well, I'll go back to work now, and I'll go back and cash my check.
Well, what are some of your last minute words of wisdom? And I'll let you run. Thanks for being on tonight. This has been awesome.
Well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you have all the tools and all the ability inside you to generate success. And don't let anybody take that away from you. I think there's just too much dream stealing in the world. Look at now, today, this pandemic. It's nothing like the flu pandemic was. Or the flu was actually an epidemic. We had 350 million cases of influenza that we couldn't resolve. But the media loves to get negative on you, and it is a challenge to work with people that want to stay positive. That's why a group like Power Team is so important to associate with. Be very careful who you associate with right now, and make sure that whoever you're associating with is on the road to success. You know what they say, Bill? If you have 6 friends that are drug addicts and you hang around with them, who's going to be the 7th? If you have 6 people that are shooting for success, who's going to be the 7th? And I believe that education, specific education, is one of the most valuable things that you can get.
Well, today is the day to go make it happen. I just want to thank everyone for being on tonight. And Errol, thanks for jumping on. Just text the word success to 26786. You get some more information and have a good night. All right, everybody. Love you guys. Thanks for plugging in. Talk to you real soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, Bill, for having me.
You got it. Bye-bye.